obviously the biggest story of the week, maybe the biggest story of the year so far, was the takeover of Newcastle United, the sale of the club to the investment fund, fronted by Amanda Staveley, but funded by the Saudi Arabian investment funds. Listen, what I plan to do here, so I really want to separate the two issues for now, is talk about the impact of the story on the world of football, and then after the break we'll talk about the morality and the politics of the deal, which I know that Oliver has written extensively and with great passion about, so I've got plenty to say about it as well. The headlines on Thursday, I mean, of course, this all came very, very suddenly, didn't it? And I don't think it's any coincidence that the Premier League clubs, the other Premier League clubs, were told at 5:16 in the evening before it was announced at 5:30. The Toon Army hails end of an era. Ashley and Bruce on the brink of exit. That was Oscar Paul in The Sun. Luke Edwards in The Telegraph again on the Thursday said deadlock broken by Saudi's desire to buy into English football. Bids accepted. And they had to forget long-standing feud with Qatar and strike a TV piracy deal to revive the takeover of Newcastle. By Friday, we were reporting the actual done deal. Back in the game, Saudi billions give fans what they've been craving for, hope. And Amanda Staveley, in an interview with Craig Hope in the Daily Mail, said, I was branded a fraud, but it was love at first sight with this club. That was Amanda Staveley on the deal that has stunned football. Shaun, you're the Newcastle fan, and I as I say, just try and tell me your own feelings as you saw this thing, which appeared to be on the back burner, suddenly rear its ugly head again on Thursday, and then boom, there it is, Friday. Newcastle are the richest football club in the world.
Are we talking from a pure football point of view?
Yes,
and what?
Yes, and your personal point of view, if I may.
All right. Well, first of all, the excitement of the fact that it reminded me of the John Hall era when he came in, when we had, Shearer signing, the Keegan days and all of that. The excitement, the same sort of, joy around town, people celebrating, crack your tinnies open and all of that. That's exactly how it felt, because it has been a very, very miserable 14 years with us just plodding along, a relegation here and there, back up, just surviving. And it's been pretty grim. So on a pure football point of view, the thought of being able to get those great nights back again, possibly, I mean, probably, let's be honest, like when we played Barcelona, like when we went to Milan, sure. All of that sort of stuff is now a very real prospect. Great games against Liverpool that we had in the past, hopefully winning them this time rather than losing them 4-3. That's fantastic, the very thought of that. And frankly, I don't care what anybody else thinks, we deserve it because we've been through a right rubbish 14 years. So on a pure football point of view, it's going to be great and exciting, and it has been very toxic, let's be honest. I talked to you about being in the back of the stands at Watford the other week with the Newcastle fans, and the atmosphere even when we were 1-0 up wasn't great, I've got to say. And it's not fun, to be honest. People weren't enjoying it, and you desperately need a change. And I've said before, I do like Steve Bruce as a bloke. He was great to me, very supportive when he was at Manchester United, always very helpful. I like him immensely. But there's no getting away from the fact that there probably has to be a change now with the new ownership to take it on. And even the way Steve was talking at the end of last week, he was talking like a man who did not expect to be the manager by next Sunday when we play Tottenham. He knows that the end is coming, and that it's time for a whole new broom, isn't it? Really, to go forward.
Let me ask you about that. You're the head of the Sun's coverage of sport. And what news then about who is going to lead Newcastle United?
The news was today that he met the owners and that he left the training ground around about 4:30, and nothing came. No white smoke emerged. And having talked to people connected with the bid, the new owners yesterday, they were saying that no actual decision had been made about Steve, but then nobody would commit themselves to saying that it'll be in charge by next Sunday. So that's sort of where we are. I don't actually know, in the 3 hours since that happened, I personally don't know what the upshot of that conversation was at the moment.
I guess, Ollie, that the thing here is that they're making noises, the new owners, about going to do this thing properly. It's not going to just be a steamroller over everybody else in the Premier League. And so it's a very bad look to sack Steve Bruce day one. My own personal feeling is I suspect John Carver will be in charge against Spurs in a few days' time, and then they'll introduce whoever they're going to bring in.
Why do you think him?
I don't know, because I don't know they've got a manager lined up necessarily, Shaun.
Yeah, but
and they've got
Graham
somebody,
Jones is
haven't they?
Graham Jones.
Oh, sorry, I meant Graham. Forgive me.
John Carver did used to be the manager, but he's now assistant to Scotland.
No, I've gone mad. You're absolutely right. Graham Jones will see the team in their 2-0 home defeat to Spurs in a few days' time.
Yeah.
Oliver? We'll get on to say to the politics and morality a little later. Do you believe the owners when they say that they're going to do this thing gradually and sustainably, whatever the phrase is just now?
Well, I don't know. I mean, who knows what they're going to do? I do believe that they are not going to be happy to have Newcastle in the bottom half of the table or even mid-table because, as you say, leaving some of the moral questions aside, there is obviously going to be some form of rivalry there, unspoken or otherwise, between Abu Dhabi-owned Manchester City. It's not going to look very good for Saudi Arabia, the state of Saudi Arabia, if the team that they are backing is in the lower half of the table and Manchester City are winning the Champions League and winning the Premier League title. So I think there is definitely going to be an onus. They're going to be ambitious. That's pretty obvious. They're going to be ambitious, and I think sooner or later, however modest they are to begin with, they're going to be in the market for the best players, I would think, in around the world, and I think that's what we would expect. I hope that they don't go down the road. I hope they have smart people involved, and I hope they don't go down the road where they're exploited by agents and we see, I don't know, Zlatan arriving at Newcastle and people who are going for one last...
See Zlatan taking over the town, oh man.
People are going for one last payday in the sort of Patrick Kluivert type era. I hope that doesn't happen, and I think that one of the challenges for Newcastle, and this is in this new era, and this is a very basic point, is that they don't get the wrong type of player going there. That they don't get players there who are only going there for the money, and that's a huge thing. In terms of recruitment, that's going to be a huge thing because we know, I think, that in the modern game, a lot of players see the attraction of going to London clubs in this cosmopolitan world we live in, and where we get our players from all over the world. They see the attraction of going to London clubs, Manchester as well. Newcastle's further away geographically, and I think there's just a danger that they'll get players going there for the wrong reasons. They need to sign players who are going for the right reasons at the right stage of their career.
They're unlikely to go, though, because they're Newcastle United fans and because they love it as a club, aren't they? So we probably do have to pay a bit extra to persuade them to come to Newcastle, as we did during the John Hall era, under the time of Kevin Keegan, until Keegan established sort of this Zen-like rule whereby he could attract players for being him and for the excitement he was bringing there. I think that's what you're referring to. But you have to bring in some players originally.
Yeah, you're right.
You probably have to pay a bit over the odds to start with.
Yeah,
Shaun, now that this question no longer sounds ridiculous, I must ask you, since you could now probably have any manager in the world, who would you actually like to see in charge of Newcastle?
It was interesting. I actually thought Conte seemed like a great shout, but because he is a proven winner. He does rub people up the wrong way, but he is a proven winner. But what we got back from the Conte camp was, sadly, what I feared, which is that he likes oven-ready teams, ones that are prepared to challenge.
He's a terrible idea.
He's not a man who's going to help you get out the relegation zone. Let's be fair, we've still got to get out the relegation zone, and there's 2.5 months of difficulty ahead before we can get to the transfer window, and probably 3.5 months. So there's a lot of people who would find it absolutely hilarious if Newcastle United went down at the end of the season. They're laughing about it, and there is a lot of hurdles to overcome before we get to January. So Conte, I would have thought, would be great, but he probably needs, he needs a bit of, he needs a team that's ready. So who would I like to see? I genuinely believe a manager of the calibre of somebody like Brendan Rodgers would probably be a brilliant fit there, and he might fancy the challenge because, and I'm sorry, Leicester fans, Newcastle is a bigger club than Leicester City, and
it's certainly true today. Yeah.
And it would be, it would be a great challenge for him. It would be taking you back to when he was at Liverpool, really, if you're honest, and that's the sort of challenge, and one he might quite like.
It's an incredible opportunity for somebody because they're again taking aside from the rights and wrongs of the owners, you would be riding a manager there would be riding a wave of emotion, and one of the greatest support bases in this country. It is a fantastic challenge, and there'll be money to spend. It's going to be. I can see a lot of people being attracted to it. I mean, maybe there will be a moral question for some, but I think that goes out the window quite easily sometimes.
We're here